crashing out is only valid if you want to sacrifice the relationship. Crashing out puts your relationship on risk. Being at a level 10 anger instead of a level 3, level 4 is putting your relationship at risk. If you don't care about the person or care about the relationship, then crash out. Be at a level 10 anger. Believe it or not, arguing is actually a skill. Being able to effectively communicate your thoughts and your feelings is a skill. A lot of people don't understand this, and a lot of people actually have a negative connotation of arguing. Arguing usually gets switched over in verbiage to heated discussion or a debate or a disagreement. But for the sake of this video, we're going to wrap them all in one. And we're going to really focus on the fact that being misunderstood is so frustrating in argument. Not being able to effectively communicate and effectively hear what the other person is saying, and just blowing up, not even knowing how to stay calm and just literally shaking to the point where you just want to fight them or strangle them. You know, those are all things that we deal with as humans. So we're going to talk about it in this video. I really want to invite in this video the fact that arguments might be inevitable. You know, the average relationship is going to involve an argument at some point. And to me, I define an argument as a disagreement or heated discussion that involves a tinge of aggression. It involves hurt and pain that is being expressed through the voice, through the body, through the actions at play. That's an argument to me. And why do we have arguments? Where do these things come from? A lot of people don't realize when they're getting into a relationship, you're not just, it's you, your personality, and the other person's personality. It's your traumas, your triggers, and this person's traumas and triggers, and they're crossing over. And that's what a lot of people don't see, is that their shadow, their demons, and your shadow, your demons, they're coming into contact and they are fighting. That's what's really fighting. It's not your personalities fighting. It's not the humor. It's not the laughter. It's not the greatest part of you guys fighting. It's the lowest part of you guys fighting. It's the animalistic side of you guys is fighting. It's the repressed, unconscious, shadow sides of yourself fighting. These are the demons that are going back and forth. So that's why people argue. A lot of times it's an underlying thing going on that we have to be able to acknowledge. And sometimes we're not gonna be able to do that with other people. We have to see our own demons. Like, am I carrying trauma from childhood? Am I viewing my partner like they're my father? Am I viewing my partner like they're my mother, my sister, my aunt? Was I bullied as a kid and now I'm insecure about how people think of me, and I'm not able to fully show up because I can't open up emotionally because I have friends that was like sharing pictures of me on Snapchat and talking about me at school. So now I'm just scared to tell people how I feel. We have to be able to acknowledge these things when we're in a relationship and not seeing them on the surface. On the surface, a lot of times, especially younger people, we're just like, this person's evil. Like, this person's just a villain. Like, they get mad at me all the time. But we're not seeing the pain in people. And other people aren't seeing our pain. I'm upset because I'm in pain. I'm upset because this is unfair. I'm being treated unfairly. I want you to see my pain. And that's why we have arguments, because it's each other's pain history coming into play, and we're trying to express our pain, and I want you to hear the fact that I'm in pain, and I want you to love me through that pain. And when it comes to anger and arguments, I want to express to you that anger is just simply the energy that is expressed and has its origin in pain. Usually pain, hurt, betrayal is what leads to anger. Being treated unfairly, which hurts, which is stressful, leads to anger. And I really want us to really think about that energy of anger, because it's like a fire. And I once had a friend who could not deal with conflict at all. And when she had boyfriends and relationships and friendships, she couldn't deal with that pain. And that pain would manifest as anger, but she couldn't voice it because she was scared of a bad reaction, ruining the relationship, or just not being accepted and embraced and loved for expressing that pain. So when you don't express that pain and don't acknowledge that pain, that fire, that energy, that anger is, it can corrode you from the inside. You start to have breakdowns, you start shaking, you start having panic attacks, you can't sleep because that fire is still inside of you, that energy is still inside of you, and it's just causing you to malfunction. That energy is not being expressed properly. It is not going towards the people you love. And when people start to see anger's origins as pain, we're able to soften up to each other. Your partner, your friends should be able to see your pain. Allow them to see your pain. And what we do is we get so angry sometimes and that we blow up just so someone will see our pain. But they don't end up seeing our pain. They end up seeing the fact that you blew up. You just broke my vase and threw it at the wall. I'm not caring about your pain right now. You just want them to see your pain, but they're not going to see it if you're blowing up on them, right? Or they're not going to see it if you're just like my friend and not telling them about the pain either. So we have to find a middle way where we can express the emotion, express the thoughts, the feelings, all of that, and be able to stay true to ourselves so we can not corrode ourselves and, cause ourselves to malfunction. And it's not right because crashing out is only valid if you want to sacrifice the relationship. Crashing out puts your relationship on risk. Being at a level 10 anger instead of a level 3, level 4 is putting your relationship at risk. If you don't care about the person or care about the relationship, then crash out. Be at a level 10 anger. But if you want to actually keep the relationship and you want to manage it well, you have to maintain at least a level 6, no higher than a level 6 of anger. Once you get up to a 9 or a 10, you are putting the relationship at risk because the damage, the pain, the hurt that you're causing the other person, you can sometimes not come back from. So we have to learn all of this in order to argue well, in order to communicate effectively. Okay, so we have to be able to acknowledge pain, see our anger correctly, and understand what's causing it in order for us to move correctly in the argument. And the key thing to remember after saying all of that stuff is that the goal when it comes to arguments is to be expressive, but also being able to be an active listener. You're trying to understand why the person did what they did, say what they did, whatever was causing you pain. You want to hear where they're coming from as well. But you also want to be able to express yourself properly to where they're actually able to listen to you. So the first problem that a lot of people suffer with when it comes to arguments and not doing it well is character attacks. That's a common thing. When you're so busy trying to like hurt the person and you're not actually trying to get to your goal of being heard because you're trying to fight. And character attacks look like, you're a liar, you're a cheater, you did mean to do that. Yes, you did. You wanted to hurt me. And you always do this, and you never do anything right. And this is why you're dumb, and you're not smart. And I don't even know why I deal with you. I don't even know why I talk to you. That's a character attack. You're attacking the person's character. You don't do things right. You're a mess. You're terrible. Why am I with you? You're not very smart. You're attacking them, but expecting them to listen to you. Not gonna work. Not gonna work. If someone starts attacking me, you start attacking me, I'm not listening to you. If you go in the comments down below and you start saying something crazy about me, why am I going to value you and your opinion, your life? So why do we do that? And you're not going to do that. If someone comes on your page talking about you, stranger, you're not going to care about what they have to say or care about their life, living or dead. You're not going to care, right? So we have to learn first, character attacks are off the table if you want to be heard. If you want the relationship to end, therefore crash out. I'm not saying not crash out. I'm only giving you the advice that if you want to crash out on people and attack them, understand you're risking your relationship. And that's fine if that's your goal. The second thing I notice a lot of people do is change the topic. So you mad about this problem, but then you're like, okay, you know what? I'm going to get them for all this other little minor stuff that's annoying me. I'm upset because you didn't talk to me today, but I'm going to bring up the fact you didn't take out the trash last week. I'm going to take up the fact that you didn't call me when you went out with your friends the other day, months and months ago. I'm going to attack you for all these random reasons, and I'm not going to stick to the main point. If you're going to bring up other scenarios, it should relate to your main point of why you're upset. People start bringing up all this stuff that's been in the background just to cause pain to the other person that's upsetting them and not staying on topic. If you don't stay on topic, the other person's not going to stay on topic. And then the problem that you have, it will never be resolved. And they won't be able to do anything about it because you're distracting them from the point. When you're arguing, you want to stay on the point. You want to make sure this point is being expressed first and solely. And then even if y'all do go off track and don't mean to, come back to the main point because you want this thing to be resolved, right? So that's another thing. Another thing that causes misunderstandings is that people, I've done this a lot. We all do this. I feel like younger people, we do this especially, is them long text messages. I'm talking about them long messages where you go on your notes and then you type it out, or you send it to your friends and then you finally send them a long paragraph of what you're thinking. The problem with texting, I'll say the pros and cons. The pros of texting is that you're able to, have it written and have it recorded, that the fact that you told them this thing. So the person go back later and be like, oh, you didn't say this, or you didn't tell me this. You can bring up the text message, or you can organize all your thoughts in such a way. The problem with text messaging, the cons of text messaging, is that you sound way more passive aggressive. If someone says your name out loud, like, hey, whatever, what's a good name? Hey, Jessica. Hey, Jennifer. Hey, Tanya, whatever. Or hey, Harold. I don't know. Whatever name. Hey, Jessica. That's going to sound normal because you can hear the tone of their voice. Now, when someone texts you, it sounds like Jessica, Harold, Tanya. When they put your name in like a period, it sounds really aggressive when you like read it. When you read stuff, it sounds aggressive. When you read emails and stuff, it sounds aggressive. But like when someone talks, you can hear like Jessica, Harold, Tanya, like you can hear the tone of their voice. So when you text, they can't understand the tone of your voice. So you sound instantly more aggressive. And then another thing is that you see how many words that I'm saying per minute in this video? You're not able to fully articulate every single thing through a text message. And then a text message also, who is reading all that? That's kind of annoying. I feel like you're setting them up to be more annoyed, because imagine waking up to a long text message instead of a message that says, hey, I want to call you on the phone and talk to you, or hey, we should meet up and talk about this. You're making them wake up to a long paragraph, which is automatically going to send them into fight or flight, to be honest with you. Like, I know when people send me paragraphs, you automatically send me into fight or flight. And especially if the paragraph starts off with the character attack that I talked about before, you're already setting it up for them to miss your point and just be upset. Another problem when it comes to arguing, if you've already got your point across and you initially told them what the problem is, listen. Don't be just responding to everything they say and cutting them off. Listen to what they say. So if I tell you like, hey, I didn't like the fact that you told so-and-so about my business. Like, I told you this secret. I told you, like, I wanted to keep our relationship, this whatever, private, this thing. And why did you tell these people? Like, I don't know. I felt like you was trying to undermine me. I feel like I can't trust you, because why would you do that? Okay. Now you pause, you sit back, and you listen. You just be like, okay. And listen intentionally. Listen for all the words they're saying. Listen for every single word. Listen. Even if you're feeling angry, listen, because you're trying to understand why the person did what they did. And you're trying to listen for the words that they're using to determine, was this intentional? Was this unintentional? You need to listen well. A lot of people that are, antisocial or introverted, they typically listen better because they're not talking. If you're constantly talking and constantly responding to everything they say and jumping up, then you're not going to be able to effectively listen. And I want you to be able to listen and not hear. Hearing is just the fact that you are acknowledging that the person is making a noise with their mouth. Listening is being able to understand the words that are being articulated through their mouth. So I want you to practice active listening to what they're talking about and processing what they're saying, and not just trying to get another word out, because that is not going to lead to your goal of resolution. If your goal is to lose the relationship, then hear, don't listen, just hear them. But I want you to be able to listen. I feel like you want your relationship. I feel like that's why you're watching this video, because you're like, what can I do better to actually preserve my relationships in the future? And I'm trying to tell you. So learn how to listen. Another core issue is not using I statements. People a lot of times argue and be like, you wanted me to be upset. You did this on purpose. You're a liar. You made me mad. You make me angry. When you say you make me, you're putting complete responsibility and blame onto them. And you're not giving them no room for nuance and for them to explain to you what actually the reality is. What is valid, which is true, is for you to say, well, I don't know if this was intentional or not, but when you did this, I felt this way. I felt betrayed when I saw you do this thing. I felt hurt and I felt scared when you did that thing to me the other day. When you say I, that is a true statement because that is your feelings, your emotions. When you say you, it's accusatory and it's aggressive and you're opening up attack. You're opening up character attacks from the other person. So do not state you and do not make assumptions about what the other person was trying to do. You were trying to make me mad. You did this on purpose. Even if you do kind of think that in the back of your head, pause, because you're not going to get clarity from the person if you're accusing them out the gate. You need to be able to be open and responsive to what they might say, even if you already think you might know what they might say. Take accountability for your part. Do not have pride. Pride ruins relationships. Pride ruins relationships. Pride ruins relationships. Pride is so toxic to a relationship because all of us have an ego. And the unchecked ego will destroy your money, your safety, your security, your relationships, your health. Having unchecked ego can destroy it all. And being able to acknowledge your ego, acknowledge your feelings, acknowledge your needs, you are going to be unstoppable to be able to acknowledge it and express it in a smart way. Not being able to take accountability is a poison to your relationship. Accountability sounds like, you know what, I shouldn't have done that. And that's not what I wanted. That wasn't my intention. That's not what I was trying to do. And I fully own up to the fact that I did that. Yes, that is true. I did say this thing to hurt you. I did. That's why I said it. Or I did do this thing. Yeah, I did. And a lot of people are scared of taking accountability because they don't want their ego to feel hurt. They don't want their concept of self to be negative. And just because you make a mistake does not make you a bad person. Just because you make a mistake, you are not evil. Really, evil and good person is very subjective. It's very subjective if you think about it. So you're not a bad person for making mistakes. So there's no real consequence for owning up to mistakes because it's like, okay, you own up to a mistake. 9 times out of 10, it's better for the situation. The other person's going to see you better because you're validating what they're saying. You're validating how they feel. You really can't go wrong when you take accountability. Plus, it's the truth. If we're focused on the truth in this conversation, then you should be able to state your truth and stand in your truth, and the other person should be able to state their truth and stand in their truth. So own everything you do. Everything you do, own it. Own it and be confident in it and be like, okay, yeah, I did do that. I'm not proud of that. And I apologize for that. And I never wanted to do that to you. I very much apologize for that. Take accountability for that. Tell the truth. But if the other person's not doing it, if the other person's not getting it, the other person is being resistant, disengage from the conversation respectfully. Be like, you know what, we can talk about this another day when you are in the space to talk about it. I'm open to talk about it when you're ready. If the other person's not taking accountability, they're not doing what they're supposed to do, all you can do is invite and leave the door open for the future. Be like, okay, when you're ready to talk about this, I'm here to listen. And you can check in maybe one time after the conversation's over to be like, okay, do you still want to talk about this? Because I think this would be helpful if I could get, my feelings across, you get more of your feelings and thoughts across, and open up the dialogue again. If they being resistant, reevaluate the relationship. Reevaluate the relationship. If a person keeps being resistant to you trying to make peace, trying to resolve, you need to reevaluate the relationship because they're trying to stay battling you and you're trying to find peace. And if you're trying to find peace and they keep battling you and they keep doing this as a pattern over and over, you need to reevaluate the relationship, especially when they've calmed down and a few days have passed. They still don't want to talk about it. You need to reevaluate the relationship. When it comes to arguing and you want to conclude and wrap everything up, you want to focus on what is the resolution to my current issue. A lot of relationships, people will feel better, but they will either ignore the core issue and move on doing something else together, or they just completely stop talking to each other. But resolution, what is the resolution to the initial issue that you or the other person had? That's the first thing to conclude. And then you want to be able to talk about how do we prevent this in the future. So we did resolve the issue, but what can we put in place? What boundaries do I need to have or express? What boundaries do you need to have or express to prevent this going on in the future? That would be the next thing. The third thing is apologizing, which goes back to the accountability piece. To apologize, it's to acknowledge your actions It's verbally validating what they're feeling, and it's being able to express your thought process and ask for forgiveness. So an apology would go similar to like, you know what? You're right. I did lie on you. And I lied on you because I was scared. I was scared that if I didn't lie, that, you know, the other people at the conference, I feel like they wouldn't, you know, my friends and stuff, I feel like they wouldn't like respect me. I had to lie. I had to lie about what was going on. And I apologize for that because it's not my intention to hurt you. It's not my intention. I love you. I care about you. And I don't want that for us. And in the future, I'm going to be more truthful. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be honest with myself. But that was just a moment and a mistake that I made. And I hope that you can forgive me. And just, you know, I'm appreciative of you just listening to me. That's an apology. You know, it's honest. It's not super formulated. It's expressing what happened so you're able to express yourself. But you're also owning up to what happened. And you're able to validate how they feel. Because a very key thing in arguments to disengage someone is to fully validate how they feel, especially if it's valid. Like, I mean, if it's like, that's actually like how they feel is actually what's going on in reality. You want to really validate how they feel. That will completely cause somebody to disengage from trying to fight you and instead trying to work together with you and collaborate with you. I feel like I said a lot in this video, but if you made it to the end of this video and listened to the whole thing, I appreciate you. And I know that you are going to be better when it comes to arguing. And I think I should make a part 2 to this video because arguing is it could be a very complex thing. And I feel like there's many different ways I could approach this. But made it to the end of the video and made it to the end of this video. I appreciate you. I thank you. And I will definitely see you guys in my next video. See you later.